Saints Bears preview. We are here with PFF. I'm going to preview the game like only I can do. Very excited for this because I'm excited to see if the Bears, not the video, the game. I'm excited to see if the Saints can build on what they did against Indianapolis. I mean, obviously, defensively, it wasn't our best, right? You don't want to give up that many points, no doubt about it. But the offense finally exploded, finally broke out. Derek Carr looked like a franchise quarterback. Derek Carr was efficient. He was pushing the ball downfield. Alvin Kamara was fantastic. Like, the entire offense finally worked. So the question is, will it work again? The question is, was it a blip or is this a Saints team? And I'll tell you this. If the Saints go back-to-back, Drake style, if the Saints do have an offensive performance like they did in Indianapolis, I will be on the bandwagon. I will be all in. Okay, I've been cautiously optimistic, but if we see an offensive performance again like that, I might be buying Super Bowl tickets. Okay, because the Saints offense with the schedule combined, the Saints could win every game besides the Lions game. I think they'll be the favorite in every game they play besides against Detroit. And if they win all those games, they'll have 11 wins. They'll be an 11-win division champion. They'll be an 11-win team hosting a playoff game. That's pretty sporty. And if the offense is clicking in a weak NFC, I mean, you got to like your chances in the playoffs there. So this game, to me, has a lot riding on it because we're going to try and find some continuity. Okay, we're going to try and find something to take from last game, move it into this game. And boy, do we have a great opportunity against Tyson Bagent and the Bears. All right, against a weakened Bears team. Backup running backs, backup quarterbacks, all over the shop. The Bears are in trouble. So the Saints have a great opportunity here to go and in front of their home fans. Remember, they're 1-2 this year in the Dome. They've lost 2 in a row at the Dome. They won the first game against the Titans. They dropped the Bucs game, and they dropped the Jaguars game. So they haven't been great at home. The fans have been pissed. The fans are happy about the Colts game. But now we get to see it firsthand at that noon time slot. Greatest Dome atmosphere possible. The night games are a bit problematic because New Orleans is a city. You know, if you have the opportunity to pregame in New Orleans, it's not easy to make it to the game. I'll tell you that. I will tell you that right now.
Saints by 8.5. Well, can the Saints build on last week, man? I told you, after 8 straight weeks of me predicting the Saints offense breakout, I'm out, and all of a sudden, Carr's thrown for an easy 300. Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave in a self-proclaimed slump, which you can.
Oh, I'm glad to see he watched my video. We had a video talking about Chris Olave's self-proclaimed slump yesterday, so I'm glad to see that we're reaching the masses. The thing about Olave, I think this is the game where he pops off. I think this is the game where he goes off. I think this is the game where he has a retro Chris Olave showing. He's going to look like the Chris Olave we all know and love. If you're Derek Carr, or if you're Pete Carmichael, well, Pete Carmichael probably doesn't even know what's going on, but if you're Derek Carr, you want to get Olave involved. Because Olave is kind of right now, let's just pretend. Let's pretend like the Colts game is what we're going to get from the Saints moving forward. Olave is the last puzzle piece. Kamara was good. Thomas has been good. Carr finally was good. Jamal Williams is running hard. So now it's the Rashid Shaheed was incredible. The last piece is Olave. So if I'm Carr and the Saints are dominating the Bears like they could, I mean, they're an 8.5-point favorite at home, I'm force-feeding Chris Olave the ball. I'm doing everything I can to get his confidence back up. I'm doing everything I can to get him back to feeling like a number one receiver, to feeling back to an elite receiver, which he was last year. So I think this is the Chris Olave game. I am going to be taking all of his props. I'll be taking, last I looked, it was like 4.5 receptions and 50-something yards. I'll be taking over on all that because I think any chance they get, they're going to be trying to get him the ball. They're going to try and get him comfortable again.
You can kind of see on the field, things are off with Olave, but I still have a lot of faith in him.
He's still a good player. I mean,
he's a very good player.
It's not like he's been playing terribly. What do we?
That's why the Saints should be dangerous. I do think at the end of the day, our preseason pick, at least mine, the Saints to win the NFC South.
Yes.
I think the Falcons will hang tough. I think at some point the Bucs probably drop off, but
the Bucs will drop off this week. I think the Bucs drop off this week. I think they were a fun story, but they drop. The Falcons with Heineke is a much more dangerous team than with Ritter. So it'll be Saints and Falcons for the NFC South, and we play the Falcons twice. It's still on the schedule. So more than likely, the NFC South will come down to those two games. If the Saints are playing how they're playing right now, then I have more faith in them to beat these bad teams we face than the Falcons. I think the Falcons are a team that still could slip up, and the Saints just have more firepower because it's Carr versus Heineke, or Carr versus Ritter. Depends on what the Falcons end up doing. But, so it's in the Saints' court. I have tickets on the Saints to win the NFC South. I probably will add more before this weekend. I think last I checked, it was like plus 180 at DraftKings. So if you're looking for an entry into that market, right now would be a good time to get on the Saints to win the South. I think the Saints, like Super Bowl, NFC, those kind of tickets are NFC. You could probably get involved with because we're assuming they're going to be a 10-11 win team hosting a playoff game. You might get lucky, have a chance to hedge out, but definitely NFC South championship, our division winner bet. It's good time to get involved.
The Saints should, at the end of the day, be a game or two better than everybody else in the South if they play to their capabilities. Yes. And I thought last week was a big step in that right direction.
But is the narrative on Chris Olave struggling literally because of that one pass that hit him in the head?
No. So this is a good example of a guy who doesn't watch the team closely, which is okay. You can't watch every team closely. The problem with Olave hasn't been strictly production. It's been the rumors that he's, not running out routes, that he's taking plays off. He seems frustrated. We obviously saw the Derek Carr and him screaming match in the middle of the game. The Kenner police situation where Olave was booked for driving 35 miles over the speed limit, setting a new land speed record on Veterans Memorial Boulevard in Metairie. So there's a lot happening. It's not just production-wise, because if you just look at production-wise, he's still on pace to be a 1,000-yard receiver. He's still on pace to be that guy. The problem is last year, he had 75 catches or something like that for 1,100 yards. I think he has 50 catches right now. So, if you extrapolate those numbers, we were hoping last year, if you take the numbers from last year, we're hoping this year he'd be closer to that like 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 yard receiver and be a top 5, top 10 receiver in the NFL. That's what we were hoping for. That's what when you have a big rookie year like that, then when you see in the sophomore year, not only does the production go down, but the off the field stuff pops up. Now people are questioning his motivation. They're questioning his work ethic. So he has to prove a lot more than just strictly production.
I think he was saying, I think I saw a quote from him. Yeah.
But he's been playing fine. I mean, okay, the one pass that hit him in the head, that was a bad drop.
Yeah, but there's been other, not on the same page type of plays and different things with Derek Carr.
I'm not saying he's been great, but the dude, he's fine. There's no problem with Chris Olave other than he's not playing like the best receiver, in his draft class or whatever.
One thing
I think if we were looking at Olave, if we were looking for an A+ season, well, let's just say A+ is hard. But let's say you're looking for an A+ season, I would say Olave right now is playing at like a C+ or a B-, and his B- is still good. Like his B- is still okay. But when you have a receiver with that much promise, you don't want okay. You want him to take that next step. Same with the quarterback. If you see a B+, A in the first season, you're expecting something big.
I can't figure out how to properly weigh. Last year, Derek Carr was in a new offense. And remember, early in the season, him and Devontae Adams always like a tick off. They just never felt like they were on the same page. And theoretically, it's like new offense, new system, terminology. They'll figure it out. They'll get it. And instead of that happening, Carr got benched. You could use that same analysis now, right? New offense, new system, getting used to the new receivers. At some point, is the Saints offense just going to start clicking? So was last week that turning point? That's what I'm keeping an eye on here against this Bears.
We talked about this all week. I think it's unfair to say this is the new Saints normal, right? Like, we can't expect 500 yards of offense, 40 points, 75% in the red zone, 50% on third down. I don't think we can expect that every week. That's unfair. But I do think this is closer to what the Saints are. We have two versions of the Saints, right? We have the version of the Saints where they're averaging 13 points a game. They can't score. They're kicking field goals, like all that. And then we have this version where they're the greatest show on turf. You can't even really say they're somewhere in the middle because the two extremes are so extreme. I would say this is closer than the other side. So I'm not going to go all the way to the middle. But we've got to find, and that's not accounting too. You also got to remember, the Saints have like a top 5 defense. And the defense was not good last week. So if the Saints offense production drops a little bit from last week, but the defense gets a little bit better, that combination is the Saints. That combination right there is where I think the Saints need to be and where I think they will be moving into the rest of the season. I would say the true Saints team is probably a top, let me think here, probably a top 12 to 14 offense. So above average offense, 12 might be high, but somewhere around like 14, 12 to 14, whatever. We're all friends here. 12 to 14 ranked offense and a top 6-ish defense. That's where I think the sweet spot is for the Saints. And if we can do that, because of course there'll be ebbs and flows. Of course, if you're a top 14 offense, some games you'll look like a top 5 offense. Last week, the Saints looked like a top 5 offense. Same defensively. If you're a top 6 defense, sometimes you'll have your defense will slip like last week, or your defense will look like the best defense ever, like the Saints did against the Patriots. So there will be ebbs and flows. But I think the consistent middle, the perfect sweet spot for the Saints, is that like 12-ish offense, 5-ish defense. And that's a team that can win. That's a team that can win week in and week out and win playoff games. The ceiling for the Saints probably isn't as high as I thought it was before the season. Before the season, I was saying that we can be right there with San Francisco. We can be right there with Philadelphia. That might have been, I might have been drinking a little bit of the Kool-Aid. All right. So maybe not that, but I do think we can be in the same conversation of Seattle, the same conversation of Dallas, probably a rung under. I think Detroit, San Francisco, Philadelphia are the top. And then I think we're in that second class, or we can be in that second class. And if we can be in that second class, you can certainly make a run to the NFC Championship game. And that's my end goal for this season. That's what I think is the ceiling for this season, is for the Saints to be in the NFC Championship game, which sounds absolutely crazy right now. Like, that sounds nuts, right? But we're a couple of good matchups away in the playoffs from that being a reality. If we luck up and have to face Dallas and Seattle in order to play a Philadelphia or in order to play a Detroit in the NFC title game, we can do that. We can beat Seattle at home. We can beat Dallas at home, right? Because if we win 11 games, we may have home field advantage for a couple games in the playoffs. And I know I'm talking like long-term, big picture, but it's important to frame the season when you're framing individual games. Because if you're inconsistent and you're not sure what the team is and you're not sure how good they are and you're not sure where they are in the pecking order, it's hard to handicap and look at individual games. So that's where I think the Saints are. So then if I take that team and I try and handicap this game, we should dominate this game. We should beat the Bears handily. 8.5 is a lot of points. I'm not telling you to take the Saints minus 8.5. But the Saints defense should swarm Tyson Bagent and really make it hard for the Bears. Offensively, we should be able to take advantage of the Bears defense. It's not a good defense. So I'm looking for a big win here from the Saints.
Bears defense with limited pass rush and limited coverage ability. I think the Saints should be able to have some success.
Yeah, they should be much better. It's a good defense. They're going to challenge receivers. I feel like this might be a rough game for Tyson Bagent, just because his guys are not necessarily going to be open. They're going to try and take away his first read. They're going to make him work through a progression, do all the things that young quarterbacks, Division II or not, generally struggle with. So that might be rough. Seeing the impact of Montez Sweat on the worst pass rush, the worst defensive line in the NFL, that'll be fun to monitor, particularly because the Saints' offensive line generally isn't great. So Montez Sweat could have some success in this game. Yeah, there's a few things to watch, but generally speaking, the Saints should be significantly better than Tyson Bagent.
Strictly betting-wise, I would look at Chicago Bears first possession punt. I'd look at that. I would look at Chicago Bears team total under. I think the Saints will limit them. I think it'll be hard for them to score. You could even look at like punts, like over on Bears punts, things like that. The Saints do like to run the ball. They are a run first kind of team. So if they are up and if they're dominating, then they will take the air out of the game. They will limit possessions for Chicago. So that's where I would look as far as like just betting. That's where I'd probably go with.
Yeah. Pass the ball, stop the pass. Saints are number 5 PFF coverage grade, so I think they'll cover the 8.5 in the dome here.
God, it's a lot of points, though.
It is.
Yeah, a lot of points. Okay.
I take dogs, generally. I don't really take favorites, so this is a pass. This would be a pass for me as far as like just the spread. As far as the prediction for the game, so I'm giving you all predictions on this score-wise. I'm expecting the Saints to have success on offense. I want to see them. The Saints are a team too where they need these games. They need the reps. They need the games as kind of a practice kind of thing. They need to prove it to themselves. Like I said with Chris Olave, they need to take every opportunity to get Olave going. They need every opportunity to get Derek Carr going. We saw the miscommunications earlier in the season. They need every opportunity to prove to themselves that they can be on the same page. So they aren't a team where when you're up 28 points or 17 points or whatever, they can take the foot off the gas because they need those reps. The more reps they can get, the better. That's where the Saints are now, and that's where I think it'll be so good for them at the end of the year if they can do it live in these games. So I'm not calling for the Saints to run up the score, but I hope that when Pete Carmichael watches this video, somebody can figure out how someone can turn his computer on for him. If he watches this video, I would tell you, Pete, when given the opportunity, get the ball to Olave. Let Derek Carr do things at the line of scrimmage. Work on the communication. Work on the momentum. Work on the confidence of these players. Get everyone involved. Take advantage of these weak opportunities at home. Get the home crowd fired up. Get Carr fired up. Get Olave fired up. Do all that stuff. Do that now. Get Shaheed the ball. Try things out. That's what I want to see from the Saints. Prediction score-wise, I will say Saints. I'll say Saints 27. Saints 27. Bears. Saints 27. Bears 13. That's what I'll say. So Saints convincingly. Let me know in the comments below what you think, ladies and gentlemen. What are you hoping to see? What do you think your score prediction will be? Tell me all that. I'll be down there in the comments reading. Thank you very much for watching. Who dat? Please, Saints, please have a good performance. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video.